Hey, everybody, this episode of Tabletop Babble is brought to you by, you guessed it, Kobold Press. Kobold Press are the makers of fine 5th edition, Pathfinder, and other amazing products such as the Tome of Beasts. In case you haven't heard, the Tome of Beasts is an amazing compilation of monsters for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. It's got over 400 amazing beasties in it, including the Corpse Mound, written by yours truly. Well, now you can get the Tome of Beasts on the amazing virtual tabletop Roll20. That's right, I'm talking about Roll20, the greatest and most popular virtual tabletop. Each creature has been perfectly converted to work with the platform, both in and out of game. Monster entries are fully integrated into the Roll20 5th edition compendium, so you can just type in a monster's name, drag and drop it right onto the grid, and boom, you got a statted token, my friend. I'm talking about dark vision ready to go. I'm talking about hit points, armor class. I'm talking about a character sheet that pops up that you can just click and it's going to roll attacks, damage, saves, skill checks, spells, you name it, it can do it. It is pretty awesome. And out of game, you can use the compendium to search, sort, and find all the monstrous information you need. It is the best version of the Tome of Beasts, one of my very favorite 5th edition third-party products. Check it out on the Roll20 marketplace at roll20.net. It is the Tome of Beasts for Roll20 from Kobold Press. This is Tabletop Babble. I'm James Introcaso. Today on the show, I am talking with the one and only Jason Nelson, an amazing full-time game designer whose company, Legendary Games, makes awesome third-party products for Pathfinder, 5th edition D&D, and many, many other game systems. He is talking to me all about his amazing Kickstarter for the Pirate Campaign Compendium and spitting advice on how to run a great pirate adventure. So get ready. Here's the interview. Shiver me timbers. It's so exciting. Here we go. All right, everybody. Now I am here with one of my very favorite people and game designers, Jason Nelson of Legendary Games. Welcome back to Tabletop Babble. For those who may not know, who are you and what do you do in the world of tabletop role-playing games?
First of all, thanks, Kent, for having me on. I love being on the show. Again, my name is Jason Nelson. I have been working in the RPG industry since 2002. Playing since 1981, but been working professionally, I guess, 16 years now. I worked for Wizards of the Coast. Did a ton of freelance for them, for Paizo, for a lot. I worked on the Adventure Path lines, Hardback lines. I've probably done 70 plus books for Paizo. And since the last 5, almost 6 years now, I've been running Legendary Games, my own game company, which produces mostly Pathfinder and 5th edition products. We branched out into Starfinder. This year, we have branched out into making Savage Worlds products. What Legendary Games is all about is making amazing products. And what I'm by that, it was shoot, everybody says their stuff's amazing, but we always wanted to strive for high quality premium stuff, deep, rich layout, fantastic artwork. We're working with authors who are working on all the official products you're already using. So that was kind of our cachet when we started out as a Pathfinder company. We've sort of broadened that out, working on D&D stuff since then. And we've got tons of amazing people, and it's a kind of a group collective. We all know each other, we all work together, we're friends together, and we work on things that people are excited about doing. So our philosophy is you take incredibly talented people, you give them incredibly exciting projects to work on they're passionate about, and we're all working together. That's how you're going to get some amazing stuff. And we've made a ton of great products. I think we're up to almost 500 products now in our library. During 2016, we made, I think, over 150 products that year, which I don't recommend, but it does go to the point that if you really work at it, you can really do some incredible things in this space, in this business. And so I certainly thank all of the contributors, all the team members of Legendary Games. I thank all of the fans who've helped us really grow in a great way as a company over these last 6 or 7 years. And it's been a fantastic ride. This is my full-time job. I've been doing it since 2014. I used to be a teacher, used to be an educational researcher, but I'm a full-time author and publisher now, and it's fantastic.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on being able to make a full-time living in this crazy, crazy business. Legendary Games makes some very awesome products, particularly centered around enormous tomes, usually giant campaigns, campaign settings, huge monster books, certainly things to make your game legendary, if I may use your tagline.
Well done, well done.
And we're having you on today because I want to talk about pirates. Right now, Legendary Games is in the middle of the Pirate Campaign Compendium Kickstarter for 5th edition and for Pathfinder. It is amazing. If you like seafaring or pirating or any sort of high seas adventure, this is an amazing book that's going to have lots and lots of awesome resources in it. And the reason I wanted to talk to you today is I love pirate stories. I love pirate games, but I think they're really, really hard too. And I'm hoping that you can shed a little light on me and we can talk about your Kickstarter in relation to this product. So my first question is sort of, before we get into you giving me lots of advice about pirate games and how I should run them, first, give me a little bit of like, what's the overview of what the Pirate Campaign Compendium is, so people sort of have a frame of reference for what we're talking about.
Well, to take it back to Legendary Games' founding, we started off as a bunch of regular Paizo freelancers, guys who were doing a ton of stuff for them, and we worked a lot on their adventure path lines, among other things. And so the first products we did were all on a horror gaming theme, because we worked on, the Carrying Crown adventure path. And so we thought, well, shoot, we've got all these ideas for extra stuff that we could do that would totally fit with that horror theme. And so we built out this whole library of products. I think there's 17, 18 products or so. And we started off just doing a PDF and then eventually print on demand. And taking those products and remaking them for 5th edition when that came out in 2014. And so that was sort of the genesis of what the company is all about, was creating stuff that was on theme for existing campaigns. And sure, you could use them specifically in the case of those ones for like Paizo's Carrying Crown Adventure Path. You could use them for that, but you could also use them in any kind of a game where you're bringing in those themes of horror and that gothic, darkness and all that stuff, and not just sort of undead and whatnot, but really exploring the mythos and cosmic horror elements there, adventures and magic item books and character class options and so on and so forth. So that's what we started out with as a company. That was sort of one of our foundation product lines. Now, of course, we also all worked on, Paizo's Skull and Shackles Pirate Adventure Path. So after a few years into Legendary Game, we started making a bunch of stuff that you could easily drop into any kind of a pirate campaign. We started off with adventures, codexes of ready-made NPCs and stat blocks, so you could drop those in. More developed ship crews, so you could have these background NPCs, and some of them are very richly developed, replacement characters, cohorts, and so on, magic items, and on down the list. Basically, filling out just spots in an official campaign that not even to say are underdeveloped, just there's always room to expand. There's always room to do more, but can make your campaign richer, more exciting, give you things to do along the way to drop in easily to a campaign. Now, setting it as apart from any specific published thing, whether it be Erase Your Coast or Skull and Shackles or any other Freeport, any other great pirate supplements out there, the beauty of any kind of a pirate game or a nautical campaign is that the game is kind of all about the horizon. It's all about going from here to there. It's not about, okay, we're in Undermountain and Forgotten Realms, and the whole dungeon is right underneath Waterdeep, and that's pretty much where you are for the whole campaign. Any sort of a seagoing campaign, there was always another island. There's always another deep water trench. There's always another open stretch of ocean. There's always another coastline. And so it's the perfect kind of milieu. It's almost like a space game in a similar kind of way. There's always something more just past the horizon. So it's the kind of campaign that lends itself incredibly well to having supplemental material, but also it means that it's hard to know where the players are going to go at any given moment. And you can sort of try to steer them in certain ways, but unless you want to just blow them off course every game session to get them where you want to go, you also want to be ready. And that's the beauty of having a book like this. You are well resourced so that whatever they want to do, you'll be ready for it. And you have many options, so you can create an even greater illusion of freedom of choice. It's a different kind of campaign than one where it's just like, all right, time to move on to level 3, and or time to go to the evil temple that's across town, whatever it may be. So I think it helps with scope and scale that makes the campaign feel and play differently.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think getting to the larger themes of the pirate story is really what it's all about. And certainly, you've put together an amazing crew of people, and you've got a lot of work on pirates already. Like you've said, it is a fantastic, fantastic Kickstarter. And looking at the page is really cool. This art is so beautiful. Gets me really in the piratey mood and sort of in that seafaring mood. It makes me feel like I am 5 and playing with my Playmobil pirates again. Like just really great sense of wonder. And the cover of the book is one of the most evocative pirate images I think I've ever seen. It's really, really cool with this sort of algae covered plank and a guy's facing off against a horde of pirates. Oh, it's so cool. Okay, so let's get into it. I think there's a couple of different ways people have seafaring campaigns. One is, I think you are the pirates, right? And the other could be you're sort of against the pirates. And any combination of the two, you might be pirates who are against other pirates. You might be privateers, but you're privateers who are working against a corrupt government, right? All that sort of thing. So you've got lots of roads to go, but then you've got a lot of challenges, I think, in the pirate campaign. The first being the water. I think aquatic campaigns that take place on or in the water scare a lot of people. And you were talking about like, oh, you've got to make this about the journey in the horizon. The way you get from one place to the next in a pirate campaign is sailing on the water. So how sort of do we do that? How do we overcome our fear of water in games, as it were, and say this is the way we're going to do combat when two grappling pirates roll overboard and are in the sea, and how do we do fights with giant squids when they're wrapping up our ship and that sort of thing? How do we get over our fear of those extra aquatic rules?
It's funny because people are used to certain things, and so on a certain level, you have to have player buy-in of here's what we're gonna do together, and everybody says, you know what, yes, we want to play that campaign, or no, we don't. And if it's no, we don't, then by God, go play something else, because the last thing you want is to be trying to just ramrod through something that people aren't excited about and interested in doing. It's kind of like the whole idea of heroic gaming. If you've got a campaign that calls for the players to be heroes, but the players want to play it like they're these jaded mercenaries who don't ever want to help anybody unless they're getting paid, you've got a fundamental disconnect in what the campaign's all about. And that's going to leave people frustrated on both sides. So the same kind of thing. If you're trying to do a grim and gritty campaign and the rewards the adventures offered are only, everyone wants to be white knighting it all the time, then same kind of a problem. So that's the first and foremost thing. That's the rule zero of any kind of campaign is, hey, do you guys want to play this kind of a game? And if it's yes, then all right. Then everybody's got that fundamental skin in the game saying, all right, let's do it. Let's go for it. The second thing, of course, is, are you actually talking about running a pirate campaign? Or do you just want to have a rich and robust toolkit to be able to work it in as an element of a larger campaign? So it may be that only part of your whole game is going to involve ships in any way. It might be the whole campaign, but it might be just a little bit here and there. Even something like Savage Tide, the long-running, Dungeon Magazine adventure path, pre-adventure path, adventure path of that whole campaign. About half of it takes place in and around ships and seas. Some, in the natural world, some in the abyss. But an awful lot of it also takes place, on islands or in a city, which can be a port city, but there's not that much to do with the water. So think about some of what a pirate campaign is all about tone and setting, more so than just all about, hey, we're on the boat all the time. Hey, we're on the beach, we're in the water all the time. So you got to kind of think, what's the balance of how much do I put those rules forward and what compensations do I offer? So if you're running a game where they are going to be in the water a lot, if they're at low levels, well, everybody's going to drown all the time unless you want to work in some kind of compensation. So how do you deal with that? And how do you make it playable and fun? And there's all kinds of things you can drop into a campaign to make that sort of stuff work out better. So again, first thing is, what's the scope of the buy-in? Second is, what's the balance of pirate and nautical as setting versus actual, tactical reality? But the third is, the challenge with any kind of aquatic game is kind of like the challenge with, say, like the Ranger class, which is, if you pick the right thing, it's awesome. And if you pick the wrong thing, then it sucks. And so you're going to have to get your stuff together as far as how you want to play it and what are the options of the characters. So if you're going to create a character who's a ship mage or who's a deep sea diver alchemist with magical technology and so on and so forth, then you need to make sure that those kind of choices are rewarded and valued, because otherwise everybody's just going to take your standard options because that's the stuff that's universally useful for whatever you're trying to do. So a book like the Pirate Campaign Compendium does have those kind of character options where you're talking about what you want to do and what you want a character to be. And there will be stuff there for people that are specific and unique to playing in a kind of an aquatic and a nautical campaign. Now, we'll also put in references to existing stuff that you'll find in official rulebooks that are already out there. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel and remake every kind of archetype. So we'll probably have a list in there. If you want to play this kind of character, here are links to online resources. Here are resources of where you can find them, so that people can go out and look and see, hey, we're not just trying to reprint everything out there. That would be silly. We will point you in the direction of some of them. And some of those we may take and give our own version, our own take on it. But for characters to be able to do that kind of thing, you really want it to be, you want to have great and fun options that have some sort of dynamic value at the table so that it's fun to play. With any campaign, there's always balance between what's flavor and what's, combat or, immediate tactical utility. And so you want to have a nice balance of that. But it's even more important with anything to do with the water, because once you go away from the water, then all of a sudden your water stuff doesn't work. If you're a cavalier who rides hippocampus around water, well, that's great until you got to go on land to go explore the ruins of the ancient, Cyclops kingdom. So you want to make sure to balance that out so that it's not so completely swingy to where the characters with the water focused stuff are gods on water and are minions off of it. It is a tricky balance, but you want to have options that have stuff that is fun to use and fun to play and not only limited to utility in the water.
Sure, and it helps to have a big book filled with amazing options, right?
Yes.
which this definitely is. So, as a GM, right, I think it's important to know then that when you're doing this pirate campaign, like you said, you get to vary the environment quite a bit, and you also get to vary even when you're on the water. There's all sorts of different ships. There's, just go search Drive Through RPG, there's a zillion different pirate ship maps that you can buy and throw down or use in an adventure or that sort of thing. So, even every ship is different and unique. And I want to talk about those for a little bit, because I think a big part of a pirate's identity, when we watch movies like Pirates of the Caribbean, right? We see that like this ship is more than just a tool that people use or a vehicle from place to place. These ships are homes, and they are, another character really in the story. How can we make the ship feel that important to the players when we're doing a pirate campaign?
Some of it is, I goes going back to set dressing and making the ship something that they will have with them for a while. And this is a thing where role-playing games sometimes don't do things as well as they could. And that is in terms of making something that is lasting, that you can keep with you. There's always a temptation to trade up in role-playing games of almost every kind. not universal, but it's very often you're going to trade up to your next gear. You're going to trade up to your next most effective thing. You got to get rid of your original ship. You're going to get rid of your original magic sword. You're not going to keep that throughout your career. No, sure, it's going in the trash as soon as you get a better one. Ships can be somewhat similar, and ships are tricky too, because what's the thing that happens to a ship in an aquatic adventure? It gets attacked. And, in a way, it's kind of like Chekhov's gun. If you see a gun mounted on the wall, at some point, it's going to be fired. It's Chekhov's ship. If you see a ship in a role-playing game, sooner or later, it's going to get sunk. Do you want players to be attached to a specific ship to the point where they would try to fix it? They would try to make it better. I mean, Han Solo keeps the Millennium Falcon put together with, baling wire duct tape because he loved that particular ship. In a role-playing game, well, sure, if the Millennium Falcon gets crashed or gets mothballed, you just go buy a new freighter, right? So you need to think as a GM, is it important that they stick with one particular ship for reasons of flavor, or what's the fungibility of the vessel? Is it okay for them to just kind of keep trading up? And the point is, whatever ship we're on, we plant our flag, and now it's our ship. One of the things that we have involved in the Kickstarter, and we did something similar in our Forest Kingdom campaign Kickstarter, which was people could create their own country. They create their own leaders, and you get a portrait and flag and a coat of arms, that sort of thing, and be able to create that and have that be something that'll be in the book. And that's something we'll have in this book as well for our Pirates and Plunder chapter, where you can create your own pirate character, their own crew, their own pirate flag, or a figurehead for their ship. You could create a little treasure map of your own private island or a deck plan for your ship. So these are things we want people to be able to put in there and personalize that, so that this book will have a collection of those in there for the readers to be able to say, okay, here's a ship, here's a captain, here's a crew, here's an island with some adventure hooks on it that is personalized by the person who created it, but that has some richness and flavor for other customers who are buying it, saying, okay, now I've got a collection of stuff that I could easily use these as allies, associates, or even the crew that my players could take over for. They might kill off this captain and take over his ship. So some of that is thinking about what are ships like in general in the campaign. Are ships just something that you get from point A to point B, or are they personalized to the NPC captains? And if they are personalized to them, I think that helps give a kind of an object lesson, a model for the players to think about. All right, we've invested in this nautical campaign, and we see the other NPCs around us doing the same thing. So we don't want to get left behind. We don't want to be these Johnny-come-latelys. We want to come out there and we want to have a name for our ship. We want to have a flag for our ship. We want to kind of take ownership of what our ship is all about. So I think some of that you model in what the world is like around them. You want to create a sort of dynamic setting where what they see is what they want to emulate. So then taking it back to, all right, how do you encourage them specifically to deal with their ship? Well, one of the things is you don't destroy their ship all the time. It's actually not that hard to crash a ship in a role-playing game if you really want to. So think about it in a more narrativistic kind of a way, in how you want the ship to be damaged, how you want the ship to be able to recover and be repaired, be fixed. So now some of that can be in encouraging certain character choices, or creating items that people can use to repair their ships, and also giving a certain amount of downtime in between. And that can build out some of what your adventure is all about, in that you've got your ship, and now you've got to anchor it to a reef or to an island so that you can stop and do your repairs. And hey, some adventure may happen while you're there in and around the ship. That can be tough because it can end up splitting the party. So part of the party is sitting back on the ship repairing it. Part of the party goes inland, and now you split the party. And what are you going to do? Because a guy who's actually good at repairing ships, it makes sense for him to be back on the boat, but that also means he's not with the party when they go in and they meet the tribe of savage carnivorous veggie pygmies who are trying to eat everybody who lands on the island.
But it does mean there's somebody to rescue them, right? When they get caught up, which does, I mean, I do think, pirates sort of splitting up, somebody staying with the boat, somebody that does feel like part of a pirate story, right? Rarely is the entire crew together unless they're doing, some crazy mission like raiding a town or a castle or that sort of thing. Hey everybody, wanted to take a quick break to let you know about one other sponsor for Tabletop Babble, and I'm talking about Lone Wolf Development, the makers of Hero Lab. Hero Lab is an amazing character/encounter builder that you can use with tons of systems: Pathfinder, Shadowrun, 5th Edition, Mutants and Masterminds, Call of Cthulhu, and now the smash hit sci-fi RPG Starfinder. Hero Lab also has a new upgrade so you can take your game experience even further with Hero Lab Online, which allows coordination between party members and the GM. I'm talking about party loot management, a tactical console, direct GM to player and player to player interaction, and if you're playing Starfinder, there's even a streamlined starship management tool. Check it out. Hero Lab Online makes managing RPGs a snap so you can focus on playing the game. You can print your heroes using one of many output options. I'm talking about emailing to another Hero Lab user, saving it as a PDF, or doing the traditional ba-doop boop boop bzz, bzz, that's my laser printer sound. That's how you can do it. Check it out. The validation engine makes sure that your character satisfies all the rules, or if you don't want to satisfy all the rules, guess what? You can create homebrew content, load it right up into Hero Lab, including an authoring kit that allows you to create your own game systems. That was my head exploding. You can even output characters directly for D20 Pro and Fantasy Grounds. Check out more at GetHeroLab.com. That's GetHeroLab.com. Tell them Tabletop Babble sent you. All right, back to the show. My other question is, pirate crews in general, in our fiction, are larger than, the typical 4 to 6 party member adventuring crew, right? So it sounds to me like this is an opportunity for like a lot of recurring NPCs and that sort of thing. What's your advice for sort of handling a big crew of people like that? And as the players gain power, do they gain followers? Do they get to tell these NPCs what to do? How is all of that handled?
If you're looking for a sort of specific in-game logic, then yeah, it makes sense that if players gain what you call sort of temporal power, political power, and organizational power, then yes, they should have minions. They should have. You don't have to detail the ship down to every last, swabby and barnacle scraper, but think about what are the roles different people are going to take on a ship. So if you've got a ship that's bigger than just the character party, which you should, if you want it to feel piratey and not like they're just rowing a rowboat around, then you want to have different sort of layers of NPCs. Now, and that's something we present in the book, and we created also in some of the books leading up to this. So we produced the Pirate Codex, and that basically is just a monster book of NPCs. So these are ones that they have a little bit of paragraph sort of tactics and background, but essentially they're just there as obstacles of some sort to the player characters. So sometimes you just need sample pirate captains or ship's mages or, drunken, wharfside tavern louts or whatever the case may be. You want a nice assortment of interesting and different options for that. People who might be, naval ensigns in a Imperial Navy, or who might be ship's musicians, ship's cooks, and so on and so forth. So you want to have a certain body of low detail NPCs that have tactics and have stats when you need them, but you don't have to worry too much about their personalities. So that's sort of level 1. Level 2 are characters who are more functional NPCs. These are people that interact with a lot. This might be your ship's navigator. This might be your ship's cook. This might be the cabin boy or the lookout. So you want to have at least a certain collection of those people who have some personality and some development. They're not necessarily intended to be combat equivalent to the player characters. They may be useful in a fight in various ways. They have useful skills, but they also have enough personality that they can actually develop relationships with the player characters. And so we put out a product called Cutthroats and Crew, which took that sort of level 2 NPC design. So you have this assortment of both friendly crew and hostile crew. And on certain friendly crew, you could use them as crew members on your own ship, or they could be the crew of a rival ship or what have you. But one thing were intended to be used as recurring characters. Then sort of level 3 are the more richly detailed. Okay, these are ones that they might have a close relationship. They might develop, really tight connection with. These could be close allies. These could even be sample characters they can use to replace their own. These could be, cohorts, whatever they might be, henchmen, whatever they're calling them nowadays. And so you kind of want to have a good spread of different kinds of NPCs, because the nature of any kind of a pirate campaign is that not all relationships are permanent and not all relationships are lasting. But, while you've got that sort of, monster manual, that bestiary of disposable NPCs, you also want to have ones that have, functional utility as you need them, and then the ones that have more rich interactions, more, personal backstories, that the ones that are going to be, on screen more. These are your real supporting characters. So you got your extras, you got your bit parts, that just play a role, and then you got your actual supporting actors. And of course, the PCs should always be the stars of the show. Any campaign is like that, but I think a pirate campaign is more so, because the atmosphere and the thematics of playing the game almost demand that there be more NPCs on screen at any given time than would be necessary in a typical campaign. If you've got, the Lord of the Rings, you've got your character party, and they're traveling overland from the Shire to Rivendell, from Rivendell to Moray, and so on. They don't have a bunch of hangers on, because they don't need them. But if they were sailing on a ship, there probably would be other sailors and other people around. So it's part of creating that illusion, part of maintaining that atmosphere, part of making the campaign feel different. And that's one of the distinctives of a pirate kind of campaign. You're going to be on a ship. There's going to be crew. Some will be wearing red shirts, and they'll get eaten by the next sea monster, and that's okay. There will be a captain who might have, some disagreements with the characters. There will be, a cabin boy who wants to develop a tight relationship. There will be other allies who are seeking a life adventure and might want to join up and really work with the players and become part of the away team. So you got to think about your supporting characters in a slightly different way than in a traditional campaign.
I think that's totally true. I think you need to think about the pirate game the way you would any other thematic game, right? The way you would think about a horror game, the way you would think about a game that had sort of a more romantic element to it. I think you need to think about that things. What makes a pirate story work, and inject those elements into your game. I love what you said too about having red shirts, especially to prove that the pirate life, right, is one that's brutal and hard and dangerous, which I think raises the stakes more too, which is great. There's a lot of things we think about in pirate stories, swashbuckling. It makes sense for a lot of the classes we know in D&D and Pathfinder, the fighters, the rogues, right? They all sort of belong on the ship. It feels like pirate stories often have magic in them, but it's usually very limited, right? Like there might be some animated skeletons walking around, or there might be a really enormous mythical sea creature, but most of the rest of the world is sort of the real world as we know it. Pathfinder and D&D have a lot more magic, right? You can be a wizard, you can be a sorcerer, that sort of thing. There's magic items all over the place. How do we integrate that into what we already know about pirate stories?
Some of that is just a matter of, again, accepting the basic premises of the world. You could play a lower magic, themed D&D or Pathfinder game if you like, if you want to kind of keep that more gritty pirate flavor. And now some people say if that's what you want, then play something like Savage Worlds or 7th Sea and just don't even bother trying to make D&D or Pathfinder into something that fundamentally, isn't in its DNA, to be a relatively low magic universe. And there's definitely a logic to that, and I can see the reasoning there. Now, again, an RPG is whatever you want to make it. The rules are whatever you want them to be. They don't have to be magic jobs. Magic doesn't have to be plentiful. Now, player characters will have a lot of magic available to them. I remember, years ago, back in first edition, they made a couple of Conan adventure modules. And with those ones, it was kind of funny because in Conan, likewise, it's a low magic kind of world. And then in the back, there's sort of an appendix adventure saying, hey, if you're playing this kind of adventure, you shouldn't really have magic using player characters because that's not what it's really all about. Even your enemy wizards, for the most part, won't be traditional kind of magic users and clerics and stuff. Most of them will be sort of charlatans using occasional magic items and be fooling people. And even your high wizards aren't going to be throwing around fireballs and lightning bolts. They'll be summoning elementals or demons and that sort of thing. And so think about the tone and the flavor you want to go. And if you want to play that style and that flavor of game, then again, talk to the players. And if they buy in on that, then cool, do your thing. Let your freak flag fly. Nobody's going to come and steal your pirate books away from you. But yeah, to get to your question, how do you marry the two? A traditional Pathfinder D&D campaign where magic is fairly plentiful and magic using classes are all across the board. It's just roll with it. Now, it does mean you've got to be prepared for the effects of magic because that's going to very much change the kind of adventures you do. If characters want to breathe water, they can pretty easily, pass the lowest levels in a D&D or a Pathfinder campaign, whether by shape-shifting themselves into fish or dolphins or barracudas or whatever, or by using just magic to breathe water, whatever the case may be. Part of that is just saying, okay, we're all down for it, and conceptualizing your adventures to fit that. So don't try to make an adventure where not being able to breathe water is a big barrier if in fact it's easy to breathe water. Just accept it and go. It's like writing any kind of adventure. Once you get past the point where player characters can fly, then you need to rethink the whole idea of pit traps, things like that, as legitimate barriers and challenges for the heroes. And you need to think about ranged combat versus melee combat. And so it's the same way with a pirate game. And in a pirate game, ranged combat will be, relatively speaking, more important than it is in a typical campaign because it'll be harder in a lot of situations to get up close to whatever the bad guys are. They may be in the water, you may be on the ship, they may be on their own ship, you may be on a different ship. They might be in the rigging, you might be on the deck, you might be flying overhead, they might be down, in the water or on land. All of these things, it becomes a much more three-dimensional tactical universe. And we kind of dealt with this when we did mass combat, naval combat rules in our ultimate battle and ultimate war supplements. And it's a fairly abstract mass combat system, but it also deals with the idea of trying to make an integrated system where you've got aerial and water combat that may be up in the air or down in the water at various levels and kind of zones of interaction. And you want those to be able to marry, and blend together seamlessly. So if you've got, a dragon turtle coming up from underneath and a ship at the surface and, somebody flying overhead with, an army of whatevers, that you'll be able to have them all interact together. So it makes it, you have to think about the space of what your combat occupies in a different way. So sometimes you could use products like the plastic kind of combat tiers or that to be able to put things actually at higher levels, up, down, and in between, if that helps you and your players visualize where things are. Or if you had like a kind of tactiles or the combat tiles, you could put them up on blocks. So you could sort of show, okay, we're here at the ship level here. Then you could show three-dimensionally, at the table, here's where the monsters are underneath. And that kind of thing can be very helpful in being able to see, okay, can I reach this thing? Will I be able to affect this thing? Because sometimes that's hard to do if you're dealing with a flat battle map. Now, if you and your players are all theater of the mind and you can rock it like that, awesome. Do that, and you don't have to worry about these kind of accommodations to visual spatial reference. But think about how you want to play it out at the table. It's important, and making sure that your players realize that run up to the monster and make a full attack, it's going to be a lot harder in this kind of a campaign than it would be in a traditional kind of campaign. And things about cover, things about concealment, things about where are the monsters going now. And for that matter, we had I was running my Legendary Planet game, and there's a sea voyage in that one. In a traditional ship, they're on sort of this desolate land where most technology's been blasted out. They get attacked by a bunch of sea drakes. The sea drakes come underneath and start rolling the ship over. And so the idea that the ground is not a stable, flat thing, but the idea that the terrain itself is a very dynamic element of how you play out any kind of encounter or engagement is an important and easy to underestimate aspect of how to play a pirate game. You think, what's more stable than the ground I walk on? Well, the ground you walk on is not very stable at all. if the ground is made of water or if the ground is floating on the water. There's this this great line in the movie Titanic where they're realizing, holy cow, this is really bad. And F. Murray Abraham's character is saying, it's like, this is the Titanic. This ship, it can't sink. And Victor Carver's character, who's the engineer who built it, says, look, she's made of iron. I assure you, she can. And so
Yeah.
that really encapsulates what aquatic adventuring can be all about. And back to your earlier point, yes, there is a certain anxiety. People say, shoot, we get on the ship, sooner or later, some sea monster's going to wreck the ship and we're all going to die because we're going to sink in the middle of the ocean. So some of that can be overcome just by, hey, deal with it. We're doing an aquatic campaign. Don't think in we're going to die terms. Think of, okay, if the ship goes down, what will we do? And then think also narratively about how you want combat to go. Years ago, I wrote my first adventure for Dungeon Magazine, and I got stuck at the end of it because it was this necromancer living under a city in the Forgotten Realms. And at the end of the adventure, I said, why wouldn't the bad guy just teleport away? He was a wizard. And it's like, I couldn't get my head around that question. Why wouldn't he just leave? If the characters, invade his lair after they've kind of figured things out, get to it, why would he hang around? And the feedback I got from the editors, basically because that's not fun. It's like, wow, you know what? That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe he, didn't prepare the teleport spell that day.
Now, if you're running your home campaign and you want a recurring villain, sure, then, work it out however you want to. And you can create those kind of recurring villains. But at some point, you have to give the players a payoff. And certainly in, something like Dungeon Magazine or a published adventure, you want there to be a payoff. Sure, the bad guy can get away, but you don't ever want it to be just this endless series of your princess is in another castle, because that just is very frustrating for players. So you want to make sure to give them some kind of rewards in there. And so in that adventure, I figured out a way that the heroes could track him down, prevent him from getting away, so on. It's all good. But back to aquatic adventuring, let's say a sea monster comes up and does capsize their ship or crack their ship. The sea monster might eat some of the crew and then swim away. It doesn't necessarily have to absolutely destroy to the last iota the ship. So, all right, then you've got an interesting adventure. The sea monsters wreck their ship, then the sea monster swims away. They can clamp onto their wreck. Now they have a new challenge. All right, can we fix the ship? Can we get the ship back up right? What can we do to get out of here? How do we solve the problem? You want to leave your players a problem to solve. And being dead is not a problem to solve. Or now the ship, they say they get in the rowboat, they start, hightailing it for the next island over. Okay, maybe then the sea monster continues eating the main ship while they get away because he's not interested in the smaller things getting away. But point being, however you want to play it out, the idea does not have to be whatever the bad guy is, it pursues every survivor to the last and slaughters them like a bunch of hogs. So that's how you create more opportunities for fun in the campaign by thinking about, not only the terrain, the environment is inherently dynamic, but also every encounter does not have to be a grudge match to the death in the octagon. Monsters and heroes both can come and they can go. And some of that also is reorienting the minds of the players. And then everything you meet is not something to rush toward and attack or even rush toward and talk to. That the idea of evading contact is relevant and important. Interestingly, space adventures can be like this. Desert adventures can be like this as well. Deserts in a lot of ways mirror the sea.
Yeah, Jaws, I think, is like a great example of there's one killer shark that is able to strike and then run away before anybody is able to get to it because of the sea. And so you can have some really scary things like that don't necessarily stick around to fight to the end. They strike, run away, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's also a great opportunity. There can always be another ship that comes along. There can be some other aquatic creature that comes along. I mean, people like to bag on the Star Wars prequels, but think about that. There's always a bigger fish. Now, again, no plot device is one that you want to beat into the ground. But any plot device is certainly reasonable to do. I remember years ago I was writing an adventure for Paizo. It was one that was set in a very Ray Harryhausen style pocket dimension of classical Arabian mythology. One of the encounters, which ironically ended up actually getting cut, was the characters. Their ship is attacked by a giant squid. Okay, that seems great and cinematic and everything. And after a couple rounds of combat, a giant sperm whale would come up and start attacking the squid. So it was planned in as part of the encounter, just to sort of show this dynamic environment that's full of sea monsters of various kinds, but the sea monsters don't necessarily all get along with each other.
Yes.
This is not a supervillain team up. The scene is inherently open-ended, and you never quite know what's coming. And so it's very easy to have multi-step encounters or events.
Mm-hmm.
And the weather plays a huge role in aquatic adventures in just the same way. So what seemed very obvious at first, oh wait, why did that monster all of a sudden run away? Well, it feels the tsunami coming, or it feels the storm rolling through, or whatever the case may be. Hey, it's a peaceful journey, everything's fine. All of a sudden, holy cow, no, now they're in the middle of a thunderstorm and a water spout, and whatever the case may be. So those levers are a lot bigger in an aquatic campaign than they are in a traditional one, where you're in the dungeon, there is no weather, or you're on land and bad weather's coming. All right, we'll hunker down in our tents and wait it out, or we'll stay in town. Where those kind of things are more atmospheric in an aquatic adventure, in a nautical adventure, a nautical campaign, those things are more tactically relevant and bring up yet another different angle on what it's all about. And think about the ending of the third Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Sure, the movie's overstuffed and whatnot, but look, at the end there's this two fleets facing each other, this freaking giant storm in a whirlpool, and hey, now there's this sort of reborn demigoddess, and it's like, holy cow, there's like all kinds of crazy stuff going on. You got all these different elements happening all at once. So the ocean's a giant stew, and you can throw anything you want in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Who doesn't want to play that as a scene in a role-playing game? And it does, it sort of brings me to, we talked a little bit about sort of the magical world, and embracing the magical world too is a great way to go. And I can tell just from looking at the art that the Pirate Campaign Compendium embraces a lot of the magic of D&D and Pathfinder as well.
Yeah, and that's intentional. And even the first batch of monsters. So one of the fun things we've done in our various Kickstarters is we give backers a chance to vote on which monsters or which other things end up in the book. And so right now we just posted up our first monster list. The poll will be up as soon as it gets done in SurveyMonkey, and we'll post that up for backers. But the first one is about kind of marine mythological creatures. So you've got things from Greek mythology like Scylla, Charybdis, and Cetus, and the Nereids and Oceanids. You've got things like the Midgard serpent and ordinary sea serpents and fjordlinorms. You've got the imperial sea dragon. So some of that is intentionally reaching out and bringing in those kind of international and multicultural influences. Look, there's oceans all over the world, and there's all kinds of myths and legends and monsters for what lives in the water. And so we're trying to bring that in. It's not, we are primarily and most heavily influenced, obviously, by the pop culture pirate, the Pirates of the Caribbean, from that sort of style of piracy, that sort of aesthetic piracy. Yeah, that's the core vision of what a pirate adventure is all about. But there's all kinds of aquatic adventures, from warm seas to the far frozen north and south, and there's from the far east to the far west. So that's part of the idea of this, is to give you a toolbox that is robust and brings in a lot of cool things. One of the things we're coming up pretty soon, we have a sort of recurring stretch goal called Distant Shores, where we bring in additional magic and stuff like that from different cultures in different areas. So the first one coming up is called Scrimshaw Magic. So it's bringing in stuff, a whole new kind of category of magic items involving carved ivory and whale bones and that sort of thing. Bring that in. That's not just a European tradition, but also an Eskimo-style tradition, the Inuit people up there. And so it brings in a different flavor. We've got further ones planned for the Far East and the magic there, or also from the South Pacific and Australia and Polynesia. So we bring in elements from those kind of cultures as well, for what this ocean and aquatic adventuring thing, this nautical adventuring, this pirate adventuring is all about. Pirates is kind of the touchstone, the keyword, but it doesn't even have to be about pirates per se at all. Sure, there are 5 sample adventures here, and all of them involve some form of pirates in some kind of way. But the adventure is not just those 5 adventures going from 4th level to 14th level. It also branches out into a ton of other resources for if you want your campaign to go to sea, even if it's just for a section of your campaign. It doesn't have to be a full-on, first level to 20th level, we're all pirates all the time. If you want to spend a level or 2 on a long sea journey, or if you are on the coast and you just want to engage with that aquatic adventures kind of milieu, this is going to be a fantastic book for you.
Yeah, that's incredible. This really, really is going to be a big boon to anybody who wants to run any sort of aquatic adventure, because there's a lot of awesome stuff in here. Earlier we were talking about ranged combat, ship-to-ship combat. Are we going to see a lot of rules for cannons, ballistae, things that you could mount onto a ship to hurt another ship?
There will be a fair amount of that, and some of those rules already exist. So again, where they do exist, we'll point to existing rules. We're not trying to give you a ton of stuff that you already own. We will reprint some things as we feel it's necessary for clarity and each reference, just kind of compile things all in one place. I think that makes sense. And bringing up cannons is actually an interesting thing. There will be stuff in here about gunpowder. Not everybody likes to have gunpowder in a fantasy campaign, and that's actually okay. For those who want it, awesome. There's stuff in here for it. For those who don't, you know what? There's a ton of other great stuff in here. And if you don't want to use it, you don't have to use it. There's one high-level adventure in there, which is actually what's coming out as an individual adventure probably next Monday, called Fort Scurvy. I've been working on this adventure off and on for a long time, a couple, 4 or 5 years, maybe something like that. And essentially, it's an invasion of a fully stocked and occupied and lived in pirate fortress. It's the fortress of the Pirate King. For whatever your motivations, your heroes want to go topple the Pirate King. It doesn't matter if they're rival pirates. It doesn't matter if they are, naval commanders. Whatever their reason, they want to take down the Pirate King. And so this is all about that. This is not a dungeon which just has a couple of high-level monsters in it. This is a living, breathing fortress where people are living and working all the time. It's got, it's got a ton of, challenges in it. Yeah, there are some monsters there, but mostly you're going to be fighting people and siege engines and siege weapons. And these are all engaged in that adventure in a very dynamic kind of way. That adventure does have a fair amount of canon in it in the final pirate ship battle, because it's assumed that, even if gunpowder is not common in general, that the Pirate King, at least for his flagship, he's got access to it. And so you can kind of bridge it a little bit there. If you want to just say, nope, there are no cannon, forget it, you could certainly do that. You could replace them with, ballistic or what have you. But yeah, there will be stuff in there about ship-to-ship combat and about naval combat in general. We may port in those rules from Ultimate Battle and Ultimate War. Because different people have different levels of desire to engage in, flotilla or squadron or fleet level action. Some people, I just want to have my adventures on their pirate ship, and they're going to do their adventures. Other people say, shoot, I want to have a pirate fleet, and I want to go take on somebody else's pirate fleet. And so our intention is to be able to provide that stuff and give people something to, meaty to chew on, so they can use that and have a lot of fun with it. So it depends on where the stretch goals go as far as exactly how much of that we incorporate, but that is definitely coming up. It's one of our stretch goals, is working on that. So it's not just hey, we're trying to do tactical level standard combat from my ship to your ship, but trying to move it up sort of a level of meta abstraction to make the ships a little more interactive. And not quite level of something like, say, the Paizo Starfighter game, where the ship is kind of like almost an extra player character that everybody sort of plugs into in a certain way. But somewhat in that direction. But really, it's more about the player characters, because I think even in a pirate campaign, your ship's important, but it's not quite as important as in a typical sci-fi game. Some of that is also because in a sci-fi campaign, you can have a small crew of characters, and most of the work of the ship is all automatized. You you've got your command crew and the rest of the crew may as well not really exist. That's harder to pull off really in a traditional sort of sailing ship or ship or what have you. And so there will be stuff in there about ship to ship and naval combat. And it's just a matter of seeing how far this thing goes before we know at the end how much it all adds up to.
Well, so let's talk about this a little bit. You've already reached your funding goal and you are smashing through stretch goals. So congratulations on that. And really, really excited to see this thing. Let's talk a little bit about sort of the Kickstarter itself. Who's involved as far as artists and designers and stuff like that go? Like, what has you really, really excited about it? What can people get? That kind of thing.
The biggest single contributor to this would actually be probably Matt Goodall. And it's sort of funny because years ago when we ran our first Kickstarter for the Gothic Campaign Compendium, there was a little bonus goal. Hey, if you pledge this amount, you can help Matt design a little mini adventure side trek on a pirate island for an upcoming adventure. And as it went on in the course of people, like 4 people pledged in with different adventure ideas, and they kind of grew and they grew and they grew. And finally it said, shoot, the idea I think at first was just do one product with these little mini adventures, but it ended up growing it to 4 separate complete adventures. And, Matt's done great. He's from Australia and he loves this stuff. And he's done a ton of work on creating those adventures, but we've also got stuff in here from me, from Jim Groves, from Neil Spicer, from Linda Sayas Palmer, Jonathan Keith, Tom Phillips, Alistair Regg. But a lot of these people are people who, are working now or have been working regularly with Pies on the Pathfinder line all across the board. Tim Hitchcock, I think, did some stuff for this as well. And it's, as far as artists, we've got an army of it. And one of the cool things about working in this business is you get to work with people all over the world. And we've got artists who are, here in the United States. We've got artists, basically on almost every continent, from Australia and New Zealand to Malaysia and Indonesia to South Africa to Brazil to Europe, to England. And it's very cool because they're at any given time of day or night. Even as we were talking here, I just got a little ping on my computer. Somebody had uploaded some new pictures to the Dropbox. We've got a litany of experienced and talented folks. We've been working on art for this. We've been getting a lot of stuff done ahead. One of the things that we learned about when we did the Forest Kingdom project last year was there was stuff that we thought was pretty done, but there was also stuff that wasn't quite done. And that project ended up taking a lot longer to complete than we thought it would. And this time around, we've done a ton more work on the front end, both in terms of art buys, but also in terms of finalizing so much more of the writing and getting the layout going. Liz Court's has been working on the layout off and on since like September, October on part. And so I have a fair amount of the layout of the chapters that are done is either complete or very nearly so. And so obviously there are some chapters that are not yet finished because we don't know what all you, the backers, are going to put in there. So there are some chapters that are still kind of open to additions, and those we will deal with as we go along. But the ones that are in the can, both on the Pathfinder and the 5e side, we're already trying to put those down now so that the turnaround time on this thing should be very quick. For people who are doing special sponsorships, if you want to create your own sea monsters, your own pirate ships, your own treasure map, you just want to do something simple like name a person, a place, a thing, object in the sort of the campaign, and this, you'll be able to do that. If you want to create your own pirate flag or figurehead, these are all things you can sponsor in and get as extra bonus items. And if you do, God bless you, that's awesome. We got a kind of firm end date on that. The project is only going to be a 3-week Kickstarter. We're not trying to do some long involved thing because it's a pretty focused concept that we got going on here, and we want to be able to get it in, get it out, get it to the fans as quickly as possible. We've had some requests for, hey, would you like to add on this? Like, that is a cool idea, but we're not adding on everything to everything. And years ago when I was working on my PhD, one of my professors said, look, whatever paper it is you're writing, it can't be a paper about everything. So don't answer, every question in the universe. Just say, for this paper, I am answering this thing, and this is what it's going to be. And so in the same way, the Pirate Campaign Compendium, it will include a lot of stuff. It will include more stuff as stretch goals go along. It will not include every possible thing that we could. There's some stuff that is kind of parallel to what we're doing here. Like we've set up a bonus package of PDFs or print on demand, soft covers for some of our character class books we made for Pathfinder, the legendary gunslingers, legendary swashbucklers, and the hybrid class, the legendary hybrids, the Deadeye Hexer, which is a combination of the gunslinger and witch, sharpshooting and curse casting and all of that. And so those are things that fit very nicely in a pirate kind of context. They're not going to go in the book. We're not trying to compile them into the book, but they're a great fit and a great connection. And so if you want to add them in, well, shoot, this would be an awesome spot for you to do that. And so we offer them something you can do as an extra add-on pledge with your pledge now. And you can, pledge it now, or we'll also have a backer survey at the end of the project where you can, ask to basically order them there, and you'll get the bit of discounted price versus the regular amounts. We're trying to use that to really help people find additional material that will be really fun and fun to use, and exciting to add something to a pirate themed game. But we're not trying to jam every bit of that into the Pirate Campaign Compendium book.
Nice. That sounds excellent. Well, I can vouch for the quality of Legendary Games' stuff. I'm a proud owner of many, many products. So, yes, you guys put out some amazing stuff. So where can people go, and what should they do if they want to find out more about Legendary Games and contribute to the Kickstarter?
Well, you should always go to our website, which is makeyourgamelegendary.com. You can always email us if you have a question at makeyourgamelegendary@gmail. You can follow us on Facebook and Legendary Games. You can follow us on Twitter at @LegendaryGamesJ. Follow us on G+. You can check us out on the Paizo message boards or on EN World. We try to keep things mostly up to date around there. Right now, go to Kickstarter.com and check out Pirate Campaign Compendium. And again, we got it for 5th edition and for Pathfinder. Almost all of the book, conversion stuff other than the stretch goals is done for 5e as well. And also Fort Scurvy, I just finished writing it, so it's in layout now for release next week as a separate product. It's also with the 5e team, so they'll be working on that. So that should be done in a couple of weeks. So again, we're front loading all of this stuff here so that we hope to have the books back and in time for the summer convention season. So as to how we end up doing the print and ship, that will depend ultimately on exactly how many books people want to get. So we'll kind of see how the project goes. And we've got a fair amount of experience with logistics and such at this point. So
definitely.
So we definitely want to get people their stuff. But yeah, look at the artwork. The artwork's terrific. We always put new artwork out in our updates. The people who've got working this are fantastic. It's funny you were talking about the book cover, because if you go to the Kickstarter page, the image that you see kind of near the top of the page, right under Pirate Campaign Compendium, is this very, Andrew Wyeth almost kind of, guys clinging to a sailing ship with another ship off in the distance. It's a very watercolory, very beautiful. It's by a Polish artist named Michael Matzak, and that actually was originally what we're going to use for the cover. We're going to do it as a wraparound cover, but we were working on just some layout ideas, and Rachel Ventura, my business director, kind of pulled together this one with the guy walking the plank that we had originally gotten for another artist named Luca R. And she put it on there, and it's like, that is just such a cool piece. I almost think we're going to just replace that. And so finally we decided, you know what? I think that's going to be our new cover. It just was so bright and tropical and exciting. And I love the jellyfish at the bottom. It just was an inspired touch the artist added in. Sometimes things sort of change in the course of how you envision a project, and you got to roll with it. And when you get something there, it's just really like, you know what? That totally works. Then you got to make it happen. So check out what we got going on as far as the project. It's well over 200 pages already. It will almost certainly be over 300 pages by the time it's done. You've got 5 complete adventures for the Pirate Campaign Compendium from 4th level up to 14th level. You've got around 100 already NPC stat blocks from the kind of the basic level of the red shirts and disposable enemies up through the kind of connected supporting characters to the more rich and robust, ready to use characters. You've got tons of pirate plunder, magic items, You've got an increasing number of character options, spells, feats, archetypes, and so on down the line. And there's a ton of cool stuff coming from pirate and nautical culture around the world. So you've got prehistoric monsters. I love the Sharkman artwork that's by another guy, Paye of that. That is one of my favorite pieces. And we've got another wereshark by Jason Judah with a wereshark riding a hammerhead shark. And that's not on here, but it's if you go up to the Cutthroats and Crew thumbnail of the product artwork, you'll see that one. So we've got a ton of great stuff coming up here, and we're excited about it. This is going to be a very fun project. It's got some neat stretch goals and bonus goals. If you want to, become one of the high captains and become one of our pieces of 8 for 5e or Pathfinder, there's a ton of great bonus stuff you get with that, including naming rights to a lot of things in the game, being able to create your own portraits. You'll get some cool swag bag stuff. You'll get a copy of Jason Bowman's Pirate Root card game. Where I talked to Jason, we're friends, obviously working at Paizo. All this, working with them, and so we've arranged with him. We're going to get some of those to send out some of our top-level backers. So, and you can see some of the layout page samples from Wiz Courts. So the book's going to be beautiful. There's a lot of cool ways to really personalize the experience and really put some you into what this book's going to be. And you'll get the credits and so on. So, and if for whatever reason you missed getting our Gothic Campaign Compendium or our Forest Kingdom Campaign Compendium, you can certainly toss an extra pledge for that and get one of those. Pick them up. The Forest Kingdom Campaign Compendiums, the PDFs are done. The books are at the printer still, and they'll be coming here sometime in the next month or two, and then we'll start shipping them out. So just scroll down. There's extra cool stuff that you can go and see and do. It's something we've been working on for a while, and there will be more campaign compendiums to come. The fans previously in the Forest Kingdom project, they voted on the next one. So the next one we'll release will be the Demon Crusade Campaign Compendium. And then the next one after that probably will be either Egyptian or Far East is my best guess. So we'll kind of see how that goes. People will have their chance to weigh in on which one they want to see next after that. So we'll be delighted to put our interview here up on our Kickstarter page. But yeah, check it out. Kickstarter.com, Pirate Campaign Compendium for 5e and Pathfinder. MakeYourGameLegendary.com, MakeYourGameLegendary@gmail.com. If you ever have a question, hit us up on Facebook. And also just check out this great podcast because we love coming on there because it's always a lot of fun.
Well, thank you. We love having you on here, and I always feel like when we end a podcast with you that my brain is exploding with ideas for my next campaign, and today is no different, sir. So thank you so much for joining me today on Tabletop Babble. I really, really appreciate having you on.
Thanks so much for having us on, and we look forward to the next time, man. And all the audience out there, you guys have a great game. Make your game legendary.
Man, that was just a brain buffet. Every time my man shows up, he just loads my brain with so much information. Jason is so smart and so amazing. So great to have him as a member of the community. Check out the Pirate Campaign Compendium right now on Kickstarter. And hey, people, if you like me, you can find out more about what I'm doing over at worldbuilderblog.me and at twitter.com/James Introcaso. Also, if you want to come play D&D with me in France, in a castle, and, maybe with Jeremy Crawford, the GM Tim, I'm talking about Satine Phoenix, I'm talking about Rudy Rutenberg, just a couple of the cool people who will be there, head on over to dndinacastle.com and let's play some games. It's going to be awesome. Tabletop Babble is still a new show, and you can help it grow by leaving us a review on iTunes. Seriously, even if you don't listen to the show through iTunes, odds are your podcatcher app of choice uses iTunes algorithms to rate and recommend podcasts to other people. So go create a free account, leave a review for us and all of the podcasts you love. The creators will be grateful. And as a bonus, if you leave us a 5-star review, I will read it out loud verbatim and credit the person who left it. You can make me say anything you want, like Candid Carey, who left a review entitled Behind the RPG Curtain. And the review reads as this. Each episode, James Introcaso gives listeners a look into a creative mind, sometimes minds, contributing to the role-playing game industry. His upbeat attitude gives James away as not just a host, but a fan. And just in case he reads this review on the podcast, I'm a creative mind as well, with products on Dungeon Masters Guild, all listed under Kerry Jordan. Every little bit helps. Smiley face emoji. Kerry Jordan, thank you so much for leaving this review. Everybody go check out Kerry's products on the Dungeon Masters Guild. Sounds awesome. Thank you so much, Kerry, for this 5-star review. Tabletop Babble is a show on the Don't Split the Podcast Network. Thanks to Rudy Basso for founding it with me. Our theme music, which you're listening to right now, was provided by Battle Bards. Don't forget that RPGs are like sex. You might be able to find a willing partner at a convention.
So my bosses James Introcaso and Rudy Basso asked me to record a commercial for the Newbie DM minicast, my new 5 to 10 minute podcast aimed at giving dungeon masters quick nuggets of advice. But I've never cut a commercial before, so let me see what I could do. Best radio voice. All right, Newbie DM here, inviting you. Oh wow, that's terrible. Hello, Newbie DM here, inviting you to join the minicast. Wow, that's bad. This sucks. I'm never gonna get this commercial for the Newbie DM minicast done, and James and Rudy are gonna be mad at me. You know what? Let me just put this aside for now and get back to recording another episode of the minicast where I give out some hot DMing advice and I'll come back to the commercial later. Sorry, James. Sorry, Rudy. It's not going to happen right now.